28 deaths taught him perfect focus. One parry stunned his own master. Then he carved through a prodigy and shattered an army's magic. A knight erased an arrow storm. Ancred thought the champion felt weak. An elite guard couldn't touch him, so assassins stabbed him in daylight. Death simply rewound the morning. He died to an invisible blade, then woke up smiling again. Each loop revealed another attack. Soon those blades looked harmless. He copied the assassin's secret weapon, then crushed its owner head-on. A single throw ended a gang war. Near-death training became his specialty. He crossed a room instantly, then tackled an assassin through a window. His counter pierced a veteran mid-air. 5 failures taught him one perfect throw. Yet one wooden stick stopped him cold, so he demanded another beating. But his climb began as a nobody. A veteran demanded Ancred reveal his identity. Ancred answered by dodging the killing blow. He launched himself straight back into danger. The weak soldier had become terrifyingly precise. Their swords collided fast enough to shower sparks. Classical swordsmanship blended with a soft deflection style. The veteran prepared his most destructive finishing strike. For both men, the battlefield disappeared completely. One tiny hesitation decided everything. Cold steel punched through Ancred's body. He collapsed before the victorious enemy commander. That commander was Mitch Heir of Azpin. Dying, Ancred finally gave his name and rank. Mitch couldn't understand the smile on his face. Ancred had finally understood his greatest mistake. True concentration only appeared beside certain death. He needed an opponent who could genuinely kill him. To everyone else, that sounded completely insane. Then enemy magic buried the battlefield in fog. Arrows rained down before soldiers could react. Enemy silhouettes emerged inside the white chaos. At their center stood the commander Ancred wanted. He provoked the giant into attacking first. The massive blade tore through him effortlessly, but pain finally unlocked the sensation he wanted. Across repeated deaths, he chased that exact instant. Enemy attacks slowly became predictable moving pictures. On his 28th attempt, he entered that state willingly. His instructor attacked, expecting the usual helpless student. Instead, absolute focus ignited inside Ancred's eyes. The entire world narrowed to one opening. His perfect parry reversed the training match instantly. The instructor froze, unable to explain what happened. He couldn't know hundreds of deaths built that moment. Every repeated day sharpened Ancred beyond recognition. Now Ancred intended to break the loop permanently. He warned his commander about the enemy sorcerer. The elf commander demanded every detail he remembered. Soon, the predicted fog swallowed the battlefield again. Ancred abandoned the formation and charged through it. The same enemy commander waited beneath Azpin's banner. Hearing his own name made the veteran hesitate. Their blades crashed together with explosive force. Mitch immediately realized Ancred's pressure had changed. Yesterday's easy prey now pushed him backward. Locked face to face, neither man offered mercy. Mitch demanded a name, and Ancred proudly answered. He promised to make Mitch remember it personally. The veteran shifted into his signature stance. A brutal diagonal slash tore through the air. Ancred barely escaped, then countered immediately. For the first time, Mitch questioned his superiority. Pride forced the prodigy to reject that possibility, so he prepared a devastating circular swing. Ancred recognized the once impossible attack perfectly. Past defeats had finally become usable knowledge. One precise movement redirected Mitch's killing arc. The stunned swordsman represented House Heir's military pride. He had defeated grown warriors at 15. Natural talent carried him among the Grey Dog's best. Mitch considered hard training proof of weak talent. That arrogance finally met Ancred's relentless pressure. Ancred's blade entered before Mitch understood the attack. Blood followed the sword as Mitch staggered backward. His mind refused to accept the defeat. Even wounded, he insisted Ancred was inferior. Ancred's stare delivered the only answer that mattered. He left Mitch behind and searched for the real threat. A stronger enemy immediately blocked his path. The enemy captain ordered Mitch evacuated. Then, he promised Ancred an especially painful death. Ancred answered with cold calculation, not fear. Crossbowmen surrounded him from every direction. One command unleashed a storm of bolts. Ancred sprinted directly toward the enemy captain. Even fresh wounds couldn't slow his advance. Their collision cracked Ancred's exhausted sword. But defeating the captain was never his real objective. He understood the weakness of magical conductors. The enchanted banner itself resisted direct damage. So Ancred changed his plan mid-fight. He targeted the joint between cloth and pole. One clean strike severed the magical connection. The cursed fog vanished across the battlefield. Aspen's soldiers panicked as their cover disappeared. Ancred's commander immediately ordered a full counterattack. Now Rillia's exhausted soldiers charged with renewed fury. She suspected her wounded squad leader caused the reversal. Unfortunately, Ancred couldn't find his own squad nearby. An axe-wielding giant demanded the hidden mage's location. Ancred kept walking, though every route looked fatal. A black shape suddenly smashed his attacker aside. It was the wild panther from the grasslands. The beast launched itself at the crossbowmen. Its claws disabled their weapons before anyone fired. Wounded man and panther stood together against everyone. Ancred quietly offered the enemy one chance to retreat. Their scarred commander only smiled at the challenge. Lieutenant Wenzens arrived and shielded Ancred personally. One counterattack sent the lieutenant flying backward. The enemy commander ordered indiscriminate fire. The panther leaped toward the enemy leader. His sword opened a deep wound across the beast. Seeing his companion fall ignited Ancred's true rage. Every trace of exhaustion vanished behind that fury. The veteran tried redirecting Ancred's overpowering slash. Then he recognized the technique from someone else. Ancred smiled, because the dangerous gamble worked. The enemy realized their duel was already finished. He finally ordered Aspen's forces to withdraw. Ancred's friends found him protecting the wounded panther. He refused to abandon her despite his own injuries. Critical blood loss finally pulled him into darkness. A silent ferryman waited beyond consciousness. The death boat carried Ancred toward oblivion. Something inside him still refused to surrender. He woke, fighting for breath inside a medical tent. The Black Panther was lying directly across him. His squad couldn't believe he survived those wounds. Ancred drained water while his thoughts slowly returned. One veteran stayed behind with suspicious questions. He wanted to know how Ancred predicted the magic. Explaining the time loop would sound completely deranged. So Ancred offered the most believable lie available. The veteran warned him against playing with sorcery. He also admitted hunting the enemy mage personally. One clean strike had ended the sorcerer's life. Meanwhile, a healer tried examining the panther's paw. Her teeth explained exactly who she trusted. Even one claw was worth a soldier's yearly pay. The battle ended without a decisive victor. Ancred still exercised, while everyone ordered him to rest. He kept replaying the technique his body performed automatically. A mentor called it awakening the beast heart. Mastering movement had changed Ancred's perception completely. His potential hadn't improved gradually. It had jumped. Then the elf commander entered his crowded tent. She asked how he saw through 5 decoys. Ancred blamed luck and revealed nothing. Before leaving, she said their fates were now linked. His squad immediately mocked his sudden popularity. The joke stopped when serious news arrived. A squire from the Crimson Cloaks had reached camp. True knights in that order surpassed normal human limits. A squire traveling alone was nearly knight level already. An alarm summoned every able soldier outside. Despite his wounds, Ancred insisted on watching. A massive enemy army filled the horizon. One crimson-cloaked knight walked toward it alone. He didn't raise a shield or seek cover. Thousands of archers released together. The sky became a ceiling of falling steel. At the last instant, the knight slid sideways. Pure will reinforced his legs and launched him clear. His aura bent the remaining arrows away. He burst through the shattered barrage untouched. The enemy formation broke beneath his charge. Watching him revealed a completely different level of strength. Ancred studied every step instead of cheering. 5 distinct combat principles surfaced in his memory: straight attacks, heavy power, tricks, speed, and softness. Each master had taught him a different answer. The knight's movement connected those lessons together. Opposite schools suddenly formed one complete pattern. Ancred began feeling his sword like a living extension. Understanding finally lit his eyes. His veterans recognized that he was approaching a breakthrough. They formed a wall so nobody could interrupt him. Ancred forged his scattered lessons into one sword. While armies fought, he chose a different summit. He would climb beyond anything ordinary soldiers could reach. At sunrise, he silently promised to continue forever. Far away, Aspen's ruling clans faced disaster. The Grand Duke saw his military strength collapsing. A loyal knight admitted their battlefield magic had failed. The furious ruler blamed the Grey Dogs completely. Meanwhile, Naurilia's survivors finally marched home. Ancred's company returned to the great border fortress. During the ceremony, officers credited him with breaking the curse. Most soldiers refused to believe an outcast commander did it. His squad nearly fought anyone insulting their captain. Ancred accepted a heavy purse without celebrating. He immediately spent the reward on a superior sword. Staying at the army's lowest rank no longer interested him. He announced his intention to take the promotion test. Naurilia ranked soldiers through formal combat trials. To advance, a candidate had to defeat 3 higher-ranked fighters. The first opponent openly mocked Ancred's low status. He was a famous mercenary and respected mid-tier warrior. Everyone bet against Ancred except one suspicious friend. Without a time reset, Ancred had only one attempt. He focused as if another death waited behind failure. The veteran charged, expecting an instant victory. Ancred waited for the parry learned through repeated deaths. One perfect deflection destroyed the veteran's balance. His weapon spun high into the air. The man's injured hand exposed him completely. Ancred's follow-up strike ended the match brutally. He genuinely wondered why the famous fighter felt weak. The arena exploded in disbelief. A second challenger stepped forward to test that doubt. This one was an elite heavy infantry spearman. His spear shot directly toward Ancred's chest. Ancred sliced the spearhead off mid-thrust. The veteran's panic confirmed there was no hidden trick. A clean counter dropped the second champion. One ordinary corporal had crushed the battalion's best. The loudest mockers suddenly found the ground fascinating. Friends shoved a third unwilling challenger forward. Ancred barely noticed because a realization had struck him. He remembered the spear knight who once seemed impossible, then the hooded killer who nearly ended him, and Mitch Hurrier, still terrifying even in memory. He had trained exclusively against monsters disguised as men. That made ordinary soldiers feel painfully slow. Ancred told the frightened challenger the fight already ended. Then his sword proved the point. Their blades met, and Ancred dominated immediately. The opponent's weapon shattered beneath the next attack. Ancred stopped his edge beside the man's neck. The unconscious fighter collapsed among broken steel. Commanders began whispering Ancred's battlefield nickname. One soldier shouted, "Curse Breaker!" Soon, the entire arena roared Ancred's name. Ancred calmly reminded everyone the trial wasn't finished. The army's true elites still waited ahead. Then, a golden eagle insignia appeared in the crowd. It belonged to the king's legendary border garrison. A veteran from that unit requested a friendly spar. Ancred knew those soldiers rivaled the Grey Dog. For once, losing would not reset the day. That only made him more eager. The infantry crowd screamed for Ancred to humble the elite. The veteran thought their confidence was adorable. He rushed forward to teach the corporal some respect. Ancred parried the killing thrust almost lazily. The veteran switched to a crushing punch. Ancred trapped that arm in a steel grip. His heavy sword rose overhead. The impact cratered the arena floor. The veteran escaped, while Ancred's blade stuck in earth. Ancred abandoned it and drew a short dagger. Their weapons sparked at point-blank range. Another tiny mistake trapped the veteran's arm again. Ancred's counter emptied his lung. The veteran still launched one desperate final rush. A third blade interrupted the finishing collision. An elf warned them both to stop before someone died. Another squadmate already held a dagger behind the veteran. The embarrassed elite called everything friendly training. Nobody watching believed that excuse. He introduced himself as Commander Torres. Ancred answered with his humble squad position. The crowd realized Torres held an unrivaled rank. Their respect for Ancred immediately became worship. The former opponents sealed their respect with a handshake. Soon, another company commander offered Ancred a transfer. Ancred rejected the prestigious promotion without hesitation. His squad expected goodbye, but he chose them instead. Then Torres personally entered their barracks. He offered Encred a place in the royal garrison. Torres had recognized Encred's hunger during their fight. He promised brutal training and constant deadly battles. Encred almost laughed, because that already described his life. Survival wasn't enough anymore. He wanted to surpass every limit. Autumn vanished, and winter seized the fortress. Encred returned to ordinary patrol duty despite his reputation. Two unfamiliar soldiers were assigned beside him. They stared at him like a walking legend. A limping, hooded stranger appeared inside the crowded market. Encred leaned down to help him. A hidden blade flashed from beneath the cloak. It pierced Encred's armor before he could move. His two patrol partners grabbed him and covered his mouth. Passing civilians thought they were helping a drunk soldier. The attacker revealed a pale half-elf's smiling face. He was an Aspen assassin, sent for revenge. The killer withdrew his blade without emotion. Encred remembered the traitors' names: Jack, Bo, and Lawton. The cursed soldiers had actually sold themselves to Aspen. Encred bled out on the frozen street. Then a familiar flash tore through oblivion. He awoke in bed before the assassination. Time had handed him another chance. This time, he studied Odin's survival discipline. He needed complete control over his freezing body. Cold had paralyzed him during the first ambush, so he demanded Odin teach him immediately. Training became another war against his own limits. While muscles screamed, Encred memorized every traitor's move. Soon, Jack and Bo appeared exactly as before. Encred greeted them while mentally choosing their graves. Thanks to Odin, winter no longer controlled him. The same hooded assassin entered the market crowd. Encred attacked before the trap could close. His first blow dropped one accomplice instantly. The second traitor drew steel in panic. A nearly silent whistle came from across the square. A throwing knife buried itself beneath Encred's armor. The assassin landed that shot through a packed marketplace. His smile confirmed the prey was trapped again. Dying, Encred studied the arrangement instead of panicking. The ambush pattern finally made sense. He remembered brutal flexibility drills from camp. His instructor had tortured everyone for exactly this reason. Encred had also obsessed over the assassin's strange weapon. Saxon called them whistling daggers, famous for warning victims. His advice was simple: never fight their owner. Naturally, Encred prepared to do exactly that. On the next loop, he charged first again. He dropped one man and seized another. The captive became a living shield. A whistling blade crossed the square. It punched through the shield and wounded Encred anyway. A second blade entered another accomplice's throat. The assassin had thrown 3 weapons almost simultaneously. He calmly sacrificed his own allies to secure the kill. The killer claimed his secret order never lost prey. Encred answered with a bloody smile. The assassin pushed the blade deeper. Encred died believing every wall eventually breaks. Then he opened his eyes at the beginning again. He immediately asked Saxon about the whistling dagger. The weapon moved too quickly for ordinary eyes. Saxon insisted dodging it was impossible. The trick was reading the thrower's body beforehand. Encred asked to learn that skill immediately. Saxon said his current ability wasn't remotely enough. Still, the veteran agreed to test him. Encred learned to relax and wait for one signal. When the ambush began, his sword left its sheath. The first traitor lost his head instantly. The second fell before understanding the first death. Encred stood motionless while the market erupted. The half-elf assassin emerged with another hidden blade. The first throw missed Encred's neck by a hair. The follow-up attack still cut through his armor. Instead of fear, Encred smiled through the pain. For the first time, he had seen the attack. He told the killer he only needed more time. Every movement was already being stored for the next loop. Soon, those legendary knives would look like toys. Encred seized the initiative and rushed forward. His blade dropped one shocked attacker. A second precise strike killed another. He would stop wishing for strength and take it. The assassin revealed a weapon controlled after release. A spinning disc screamed toward Encred. One finger movement curved its flight mid-air. The redirected steel buried itself in Encred's body. He stared at the wound with fascinated disbelief. The dying soldier wanted that weapon for himself. Back at camp, Encred repeatedly recreated the motion. His crude practice ring exploded under pressure. The loose blade nearly removed his companion's face. That failure only made the technique more attractive. Later, a hidden projectile came from a watchtower. Encred dodged while launching his own counterattack. His throw eliminated the distant shooter. Saxon intercepted the next blade in midair. He explained that throwing required the entire flexible body. Encred admitted he copied Saxon by watching him fight. That natural observation stunned the veteran. Saxon finally revealed the technique's old foundation. Its creators sought silence, but invented a deadly whistle. Encred treated the legend as another skill to conquer. When the real day arrived, he abandoned his assigned post. His escorts tried steering him toward the waiting ambush. Encred asked whether silver was worth their honor. The exposed traitors drew their swords. One swift slash ended both arguments. Encred knew the real assassins were still watching. They emerged from the fog moments later. He invited them to make their final mistake. A fan of flying blades filled the air. Encred identified the true weapon among the illusions. He slipped aside and prepared his answer. His returning blade killed the hidden crossbowman. Another dagger struck Encred's armored forearm. It lodged in steel without reaching flesh. The assassin finally saw a monster behind Encred's eye. Encred raised his heavy sword for execution. First, he pulled the embedded dagger from his arm. His smile showed absolutely no concern for pain. He teased the killer about having one weapon left. Then he watched the man's shoulders instead of the blade. Two whistling projectiles rushed toward his chest. Encred evaded them by a fraction. The assassin prepared an entire hidden arsenal. Encred revealed a paired throwing blade of his own. The killer's confidence turned into immediate terror. Encred sent the spinning weapon back at him. The assassin blocked his own technique in disbelief. Then he switched to close combat from above. Encred met the desperate dive with perfect calm. The attacker realized every movement was already understood. Encred's heavy sword rose for the final verdict. The finishing blow split earth beneath them. One red flash ended the assassin's life. Encred had finally broken another impossible wall. Victory over a superior enemy felt almost euphoric. He claimed the dead man's rare throwing knife. Back in camp, he called the whole incident accidental. His commander noted those killers belonged to criminal syndicate. Unable to prove anything, she sent him back on duty. Encred returned to his snowbound barracks for some peace. A blade immediately flew past his face. It was his squad mate's ridiculous reaction test. Encred answered by tossing him a heated stone. The man's screaming improved everyone's mood considerably. Encred even bought a street haircut during the argument, but the assassinations still left dangerous questions. One traitor was a thief. Another had insulted nobility. All three had entered the army together. A thieves' guild changed leadership around that same time. Encred asked Saxon about the city's criminal underworld. Saxon had lost every contact after the guild coup. Then a blizzard buried the fortress in snow. Everyone desperately searched for excuses to avoid shoveling. Encred proposed an unscheduled mission instead. His squad became battle-ready with miraculous speed. He told the commander the thieves aided Aspen's assassins. She asked whether justice conveniently beat snow duty. Encred denied everything with heroic composure. Permission secured, the squad marched into the storm. Saxons scouted the Gilpin Guild, while others waited nearby. Encred authorized any method necessary. The rest found warmth inside a lonely inn. One recruit worried the mission would become an execution. As hours passed, Encred began regretting his harsh order. Saxon silently crossed the city's snowy rooftops. He found two armed men sneaking through an alley. Saxon returned covered in snow with urgent information. His comrades were warm, drunk, and emotionally unavailable. He demanded they leave immediately. Encred initially chose caution against the worsening storm. Then impatience finally forced everyone outside. A disguised beggar suddenly drew a hidden blade. More assassins erupted from the snowbound street. Encred's veterans reacted before the ambush fully formed. A heavy axe painted fresh snow red. Rem's enormous fist dropped the second attacker. Saxon found a concealed hatch beneath their rags. One punch from Rem removed the lock completely. He politely invited everyone into the criminal basement. Encred planned to extract answers before asking questions. Inside, the conspirators discussed their failed assassination. Their laughter ended when the door exploded inward. Rem entered, smiling like a courteous natural disaster. Encred offered the gang one chance to surrender. Only men without innocent blood could cross his line. He privately admitted the dramatic pose felt excellent. The gang leader responded with several uncreative curses. He ordered his champion, Wyvern, to handle Encred. Wyvern claimed his sword had never lost. He charged to preserve that statistic. Encred parried the attack without difficulty. His counter went straight through Wyvern. The primitive technique resembled Encred's old mistakes. The gang leader began sweating immediately. Encred lowered his bloody sword and repeated the offer. The remaining criminals faced a very simple decision. One weapon hit the floor first. Its owner raised both hands and begged. The furious leader attacked his surrendering subordinate. A thrown blade entered the leader's forehead. Encred had stopped the execution without moving closer. Even the skeptical veteran called it ridiculously heroic. The younger recruit looked ready to start a fan club. With their leader dead, the entire gang surrendered. Rem still recommended killing everyone for efficiency. One bald criminal offered his own life for the others. That loyalty made Encred reconsider the situation. The guild's confusing name concealed its real leadership. Then the prisoner mentioned a hidden treasure room. Encred's priorities experienced a healthy adjustment. Rem opened the vault with his usual delicate technique. While others grabbed coins, Encred inspected useful equipment. A flexible leather cuirass immediately caught his attention. He claimed it for future fights. Then Saxon proposed taking control of the whole guild. The old leader could remain as a convenient puppet. Their tavern conversation had actually planted this plan earlier. Saxon was already discussing salaries and expansion. The gang learned their organization had new management. They warned a secret patron would retaliate. Encred wanted to finish and return safely. Unfortunately, returning meant shoveling endless snow. His soldiers instantly discovered important reasons to stay. One suddenly felt called to preach locally. Encred learned cowardice could inspire remarkable creativity. The next morning, they faced their suspicious commander. Instead of punishment, she invoked Encred's refusal to dodge duels. Then she drew her sword. Encred hoped sparring would replace discipline. Her first strike planted him in the snow. She calmly ordered him to stand again. The next blow returned him to the ground. Every attempt ended with another immediate impact. His commander couldn't reconcile this weakness with his victories. Encred looked unstoppable with a sword and helpless without one. Lying defeated, he finally recognized that weakness. He needed a fighting style built around his body. True strength began where dependence on steel ended. So he sought the man who uprooted trees barehanded. Odin believed only a steel body survives everything. His proposed training bordered on organized self-destruction. The giant promised Encred would experience real death. Encred replied that near death was his specialty. Training began beneath the weight of an enormous boulder. Odin called this method physical isolation. Muscles had to tear before their limits expanded. Odin demanded 10 seconds. Encred rejected the limit. He had no time for regrets about starting late. Encred told Odin to stop talking and add weight. That stubbornness earned the giant's respect. Odin promised Encred would crawl home. Soon, Encred held stones with both arms extended. Eventually, his body answered with a very final thud. He stumbled into barracks, barely able to breathe. His explanation was simply ordinary training. The panther climbed onto his bed for warmth. A squad mate suggested she finally deserved a name. She rejected every terrible option with open hostility. Encred postponed the problem and fell asleep beneath her. He awoke inside a field of glowing blue flowers. Celestial lights and drifting petals surrounded him. The familiar ferryman was nowhere nearby. A mysterious silhouette appeared among the flowers. She was a beautiful woman with long, dark hair. Her eyes glowed exactly like the panther's. The name Esther entered Encred's mind. The dream pulled them strangely close. Back in reality, they shared one bed for warmth. Her grip tightened as though fearing his disappearance. By morning, Encred was already preparing to leave. His friend reminded him yesterday nearly destroyed him. Yet Encred felt completely restored. The panther's knowing stare confirmed something had changed. Secretly, Esther enjoyed his admiration of her human form. Forbidden magic had trapped her inside a beast. Another curse had drawn her toward Encred. Now she watched him recover from impossible training daily. True names carried absolute power in magic. Fortunately, Encred remained oblivious to her feelings. Esther also sensed ancient darkness consuming his soul. Until her power returned, she could only watch. Encred's physical training continued with violent enthusiasm. New reflexes let him escape attacks at the last instant. Odin taught that strength without flexibility becomes useless. Pain still couldn't teach Encred how to quit. Months passed, and the snow slowly retreated. Every movement became cleaner beneath Odin's approving eye. Meals were merely pauses between sparring sessions with Ragna. His mentor declared the foundation complete. For Encred, repetition was always the easiest part. At night, he still craved a real battlefield test. A hidden strike suddenly came from the darkness. His improved reaction caught it safely. Concealed blades no longer threatened him. Then a knock silenced the barracks. The elf commander stood outside with new orders. Winter was over, and Encred had a special assignment. Citizens could hire fortress soldiers for special protection jobs. Encred finally had a chance to test his training. He was allowed to choose one squad mate. The elf commander would join them personally. A distant guard witnessed their private nighttime meeting. He sprinted away, carrying a completely imaginary scandal. By dawn, romance rumors filled the entire fortress. Encred felt every sideways glance during training. His squad congratulated him on becoming a father. Denying the story only made it stronger. Even sword practice gained a deeply unfortunate double meaning. Encred prayed the mission would begin quickly. Rem expected to be chosen and received disappointment instead. Encred selected a quiet, stealthy companion. The axe giant protested with considerable volume. His companion warned that attachment to women only caused pain. Encred had absolutely no idea what she meant. They met the beautiful elf commander at the rendezvous. She immediately asked a question designed to embarrass him. Encred froze, while his companion fought laughter. The commander continued until he nearly surrendered. A carriage finally rescued him from the interrogation. Only then did Encred realize she had been joking. Their actual client was a powerful merchant heir. The Rockfried Guild had split between two successors. The soldiers would prevent either side from starting bloodshed. Encred expected a greedy old merchant, not a young woman. Her name was Leona, an adopted heir. A pleasant smile concealed her dangerous political position. The soldiers escorted her through the old city. Her elderly maid handled every conversation for her. Their role seemed limited to silent human shield. Encred used the boredom to study everyone around. He identified Leona's guard as a left-handed armored swordswoman. A companion proposed a game of identifying sounds. They tracked hammers, footsteps, and distant market noise. The elf commander joined with naturally superior humor. To her, every sound created a map of intentions. She heard steel, breathing, and movement beyond the window. One enemy was even hiding beneath their table. A warning shout arrived one heartbeat too late. Wet impacts shattered the inn's tense silence. The delegation had walked into a coordinated ambush. The elf commander seized control immediately. Encred's squad counterattacked without waiting for order. The first assassin painted the wall red. Still, protecting Leona remained the priority. Encred rushed toward the second floor. Throwing knives hammered against raised shields. The attackers quickly discovered they chose the wrong escort. The elf wondered how Encred earned such absolute loyalty. These dangerous veterans trusted his decisions without hesitation. The fight awakened genuine excitement in her. Her blade opened one attacker's throat. Encred finished another at the same moment. Repeated death had cured him of being surprised. Then, an assassin dropped from above. Encred treated the attack like reaction practice. A spinning strike knocked the man out of the air. Another shadow moved across the room. That assassin rushed directly toward Leona and her maid. The maid placed herself before the falling sword. A throwing knife risked hitting the women. Ancred had to cross the room instantly. He copied the explosive dash of his teacher. Every leg muscle fired beyond its trained limit. Ancred reached them at the final instant. He shielded both women with his own back. The blade cut through his cloak. His stolen leather cuirass absorbed the attack. Ancred seized the assassin's shoulder. Then he tackled the man through a second-floor window. They crashed into the ground together. Using the assassin as padding, Ancred stood immediately. Leona watched from the shattered window in disbelief. The surviving killer drew a second sword. He demanded to know whether Ancred served the royal garrison. Ancred only complained that assassins talked too much. Then he invited the man to attack. The furious killer charged. At last, Ancred faced a genuinely trained opponent. Two blades created a chaotic storm of steel. Ancred recognized the broken rhythm almost instantly. The first attack missed him by millimeters. He ducked beneath the next spinning slash. Ancred slipped through the entire combination untouched. He appeared behind the stunned assassin. The killer couldn't believe a common soldier evaded everything. Ancred privately admired the man's speed and precision. The assassin launched another overhead assault. Mystic blue fire suddenly filled Ancred's eye. Color drained as the world slowed around him. Glowing lines revealed the exact attack paths. He stepped around the fatal trajectory. His counterattack began in the same motion. The sword pierced the airborne assassin's chest. Ancred felt annoyed because he missed the heart. The assassin still collapsed, choking on blood. For Ancred, victory only exposed imperfect accuracy. The remaining attackers fled in panic. Ancred tried chasing until a squad mate called him back. Their mission was protection, not regional extermination. The elf commander praised his work. Then she teased him about their sleepless night. Ancred's combat composure disappeared instantly. Leona asked whether the two were courting. The commander enthusiastically encouraged the misunderstanding. Ancred considered jumping through another window. Leona finally asked her rescuer's name. She promised generous payment for his injury. Ancred said he had only performed his duty. His restraint clearly impressed her. That night, Ancred studied the failed assassination. The plot obviously connected to the guild's succession. Leona found him still guarding the empty hall. She joined him for a private conversation. Leona offered him a permanent bodyguard position. The Rockfried Guild possessed enormous influence. Its partners included wildlands nomads. Another partner hunted ancient dragons. The guild also controlled a priceless trade route map. Leona refused to surrender it to her foolish brother. She wanted a principled swordsman who ignored easy money. Ancred rejected the offer without considering it. The elf commander arrived during Leona's stunned silence. She warned Leona not to pressure a clear refusal. Leona withdrew to prepare for the second candidate. Ancred's companion mocked his success with women. The commander accused him of betraying her broken heart. Ancred replied that his taste had changed. The elf accepted that challenge with visible interest. Nearby soldiers converted everything into new rumors. Morning delivered the next stage of the succession dispute. A cheerful squadmate arrived, already informed about everything. Ancred redirected the jokes toward actual intelligence work. He ordered a full background report on both heirs. The late Rockfried master had been respected and brilliant. He believed adopted daughter Leona was the ideal successor. Duty prevented him from excluding his biological son. His sudden death left the guild without a final decision. That biological son was already racing toward the inn. Inside his carriage, mercenaries criticized the failed attack. Paul had endured the insults with spoiled resentment. He promised more money if they eliminated his rival. His party stormed into the inn without courtesy. Paul had immediately complained about the meeting place. Ancred focused on one dangerous mercenary beside him. The experienced killer noticed Ancred's evaluating stare. Both men quietly postponed their confrontation. Paul had loudly demanded Leona appear. Ancred thanked fate that Rem wasn't present. Even calm Saxon was already reaching for a dagger. Ancred stopped him before the inheritance became simpler. Leona descended, wearing pure contempt. Her opening argument was a spectacular slap. Ancred realized this negotiation would be perfectly normal. Leona reminded Paulid that attacking her meant life imprisonment. Fear immediately removed his remaining arrogance. Paulid screamed that someone had framed him. Then he attacked her orphan background. Leona replied that the true son couldn't add numbers. Paulid claimed arithmetic was servant work. His answer visibly exhausted everyone intelligent nearby. Leona stepped closer and dismantled his pride completely. She forced him to meet her eyes, then asked how he became both ugly and useless. Humiliation drove Paulid toward his sword. Encred reached for his own immediately. The dangerous mercenary moved behind Paulid as well. Both sides stopped one fraction before bloodshed. Encred remained ready for any movement. The mercenary slowly exposed his blade. Encred welcomed the approaching fight. The killer became a blur, crossing the room. Then the fortress commander entered and froze everyone. Royal authority ordered every weapon lowered. She formally connected the attack to merchant conspiracies. The hired killers started pointing toward their employers. One conspirator denied evidence everyone could see. Instead of immediate arrests, the commander proposed controlled custody. Leona suggested detaining both heirs. Even Encred wondered why the victim volunteered for prison. She needed the small criminals to expose their commander. Several attackers had escaped during the confusion. Without direct evidence, the investigation required another trap. But succession negotiations couldn't continue inside fortress land. Outside them, Leona's protection would become much weaker. That dangerous mercenary made another ambush especially frightening. Encred suspected Leona understood every risk already. She announced a bounty for capturing the fugitives. The reward was the legendary Carmen Stiletto. It would go to whoever captured the escaped captain. Saxon volunteered before anyone else processed the offer. His sudden enthusiasm surprised even Encred. Paulid called sacrificing such a weapon insane. Leona reminded him that it belonged to her. Carmen's name commanded respect from every serious warrior. The former slave forged 7 weapons after becoming an assassin. This stiletto was the 4th of those treasures. Torres sealed the inn and trapped everyone inside. Encred focused on the fugitives Saxon was already hunting. Paulid's faction understood the walls closing around them, but money and influence made surrender impossible. Upstairs, Paulid desperately searched for another escape. His advisors said investors would decide the guild's future. Bribing enough votes could still secure victory. Outside, a separate struggle unfolded beneath the moon. A messenger pushed through exhaustion, carrying critical information. Torres later found Encred training instead of resting. What genius learned in a week took Encred a year. That made wasting even 1 second unacceptable. He built future strength, one painful brick at a time. Watching him made veteran soldiers question their own effort. Torres finally ordered him to stop lifting weights. Instead, he proposed a training duel. Encred accepted without recovering his breath. Wooden swords echoed beneath the full moon. Torres attacked using all his experience. Encred blocked without giving ground. Torres loudly celebrated every successful strike. After 11 rounds, Encred still demanded another. Soon, soldiers lined up for their own chance. A clever throw sent Encred flying again. The frozen ground emptied his lungs. He jumped up and begged to see it again. Failure didn't wound his pride. It fed his curiosity. He lost to the same throw repeatedly. Everyone assumed the technique had completely defeated him. On the 5th attempt, Encred's timing became perfect. He seized the attacking position instantly. His own throw buried the former teacher in earth. The watching soldiers erupted over his learning speed. Nearby women joked that Encred charmed everyone eventually. He prepared for the next opponent without pause. Outwardly, Encred possessed no extraordinary talent. Still, a true master finally stepped forward. The veteran suggested Encred simply watch first. Encred refused with complete certainty. His desperation made further argument pointless. The master carried only a wooden pole, yet every movement radiated lethal danger. Invisible pressure froze the entire courtyard. The veteran raised the pole into a perfect stance. That posture alone crushed Encred's confidence. The strike arrived almost too fast to see. Encred's senses sharpened beyond their limit. Time slowed around a glowing attack line. He saw the blow aimed directly at his neck. The death existed only inside his heightened perception. In reality, wood stopped inches from his throat. The master praised his reaction, but criticized his speed. Encred couldn't believe a human moved that quickly. Every recent victory suddenly felt meaningless. The summit again looked impossibly distant. Instead of despairing, Ancred tightened his grip. He demanded the duel continue. Even the harsh veteran respected that refusal to quit. Training impacts echoed through the night. The master planted Ancred on the ground repeatedly. Each fall delivered fresh, educational agony. Ancred kept standing with the wooden weapon. The teacher finally changed to something Ancred could absorb. He ended the session before Ancred's body collapsed completely. Ancred swore to master the lightning-fast sword someday. Morning sunlight returned to the snowy headquarters. A messenger announced the escaped mercenaries had been captured. Bound prisoners were thrown before the commanders. Ancred thanked the team that completed the hunt. Torres began asking which merchant guild ordered the attack. Paulid's heart nearly escaped his chest. The beaten mercenary prepared to name the employer. Instead, he accused the distant power of Aspen. Aspen supposedly wanted every major local trade district. Paulid instantly claimed ignorance and waived written orders. Leona declared the matter a fortress investigation now. The commander noted someone looked unusually relieved. Leona calmly admitted the outcome followed her plan. Paulid never realized he had served as her puppet. The protected carriage finally left the inn. Saxon admired his newly won legendary stiletto. Ancred treated him like a child holding explosives. A companion warned him Leona was genuinely terrifying. Everyone knew Paulid paid the killers, yet Aspen took blame. That deception had been prepared long before the arrests. A messenger also hinted Ancred's hidden history was known. Cold sweat followed one realization. Leona knew everything. She had arranged silence in exchange for the mercenaries' freedom. Ancred couldn't understand why she protected her enemy. Leona said her brother's name should remain clean. Family honor mattered more than immediate revenge. Her smile promised even the next move was calculated. Armed warriors waited beside the fortress gates. A shining knight stepped forward to meet the carriage. Leona had already been unanimously chosen guild leader. The guards knelt and swore allegiance to her. Ancred finally understood the full scale of her strategy. Every piece had moved exactly where she wanted. She didn't repeat the bodyguard offer after his refusal. Still, Leona recognized Ancred's unusual ability to inspire loyalty. She offered friendship and future alliance instead. Their handshakes sealed mutual respect before separation. Paulid screamed when the guards ignored him. Their captain ordered him to stop disgracing his father. The spoiled heir finally understood his total defeat. Hidden conspirators realized Leona was far more dangerous. They also noticed one ordinary-looking soldier beside her.